So let me just start by just introducing myself, and then I'll introduce you, Joe. Okay, so if you're joining me for the very first time, my name is Augusta Moses. I am the owner of Ogimono. Ogimono is a financial coaching platform where I teach or I create courses for young people aged between 11 to 16 and their parents and also entrepreneurs as well. And well, tonight I have invited a very special guest, and that's Joe Dean, the financial consultant for tonight. And Joe, you can introduce yourself, but Joe will be going through retirement planning. So this is something that most of us probably don't actually think about because maybe we feel like we're too young. So this is something that Joe will be talking us through and telling us why it's actually quite important for us to start thinking about it as early as like in our 20s. So over to you, Joe. Can you introduce yourself?
Thank you. Thank you, Augusta. First of all, thank you so much for having me on tonight. It's really exciting to be here and to be able to talk about this subject that you're absolutely right. I think a lot of people sort of overlook, and actually it can be a lot more exciting and a lot more interesting than I think people realise. So thank you. I guess a little bit about myself. So my name is Joe. I'm a financial advisor at St James's Place, and I work with a variety of different individuals to look at their sort of full financial well-being and make sure they've got the best plan in place to ensure that they're being efficient from a risk, growth and a tax point of view now, but also in the future as well. And that's really sort of the key areas that I focus on.
Okay, so I know that the reason why I reached out to you because you're my wealth manager. I shared my own story with you, and I haven't actually had a consistent work, if you like, or I've had gaps within my career, and I haven't actually had the time to like consistently contribute to my pension pot. And I know you talked me through that, and you talked me through what my options basically, because I kind of felt like having had kids, I felt that I was missing out on not having that time to have contributed. And I just wanted to actually, can you just share the advice that you gave me with regards to how I can actually catch up being, a mom, not having the opportunity to actually have saved up or built up my own pension pot?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that a lot of people experience as we go through different life events, whether it's having kids, becoming a mum, or maybe a career break, whatever it may be. And it's different for everyone, and different factors impact your own financial plan. What's really, really important is it's never too late or too early to start looking at these things. And it's just about taking that first step and saying, right, do I know what's happening on my current financial plan? Do I know what that looks like for the future? And is there more that I could be doing to make my money and my assets work harder for me? And it's going to be different for absolutely everyone. And if you take the pension as quite a specific example, well, everyone has a certain amount of allowance that they can utilise. And what a lot of people don't realise is, yes, the pension is a really effective way to save for the future, but also actually, if you're looking at things like tax efficiency for the now, it's actually a really effective way to improve your tax position now as well. So it's about looking at all these things with a very open mind and seeing, okay, well, it's not just about when I'm 70, what does retirement look like? Actually, by getting these things in place and in order now, you're going to put yourself in a much better position, and your family and your dependents in a much better position now. So really important to just do your research. Start by just looking on the internet, see what's out there. There's some amazing websites out there, some amazing articles, and don't be scared to ask for advice either. Everyone has the right to speak to somebody and find out if there's more that they could be doing. So always have the confidence to reach out and speak to a professional if you have any concerns or if you want to discuss options.
Yeah. So Joe, can you talk to us about like the clients that you actually serve? Because when we think about financial planning, sometimes it can feel a little bit daunting because you can feel like, oh, I don't actually have enough wealth to even consider talking to somebody or looking or seeking advice. And I know that you deal with me, and I'm not, I don't have loads and loads of money. But can you talk to us about the kind of the clients that you actually serve?
Yeah, of course. So everyone's different. Everyone's different. We all have different assets, different liabilities, and that's actually one of the reasons why I got into wealth planning, is because I think historically, traditionally, wealth management was considered something for the super high net worth earners, the super wealthy, whatever that means. But actually, financial planning is taking a much more holistic approach now, which I think is really, really important. So it's not just about looking at building and preserving capital, so things like investing, it's also looking at things like mortgages, at debt financing, at legacy planning, so things like inheritance tax. So there's lots of different areas that you can tackle when we're talking about your financial plan and your well-being. So there's not a threshold. I work with a variety of different individuals with different concerns, different priorities, and more often than not, there is something that you could be doing to make your money work harder for you or to put you in a better position, whether it is looking at protection or asset building or whatever it may be. So to never be put off or daunted by it, but I completely understand why somebody might be, because it's quite a scary step to take, and it's also really personal. You're talking about your finances, and it is a very personal thing, especially with the British. We don't really like talking about things like that, but it's really important that you feel comfortable talking about those sorts of things with a professional, and the trust has got to be there as well.
Yeah. Um, it is quite personal, and I guess maybe we should have actually started off our conversation by saying that you're not really here to, you can't actually offer any advice until you actually know someone's individual circumstances, and you know what they want, and you know why they want it and when they want it. Because a lot of the times people talk about, oh, I want to retire, I want to retire early, but it's kind of difficult for them to even pinpoint what that means or what that even looks like, or how much it will take for them to even say I'm retiring early. So
Yeah.
what things you can you share, not so much advice, but some more about how can you make them more aware with regards to thinking about the numbers, like really putting that into place?
Yeah, really good question. So I would say, actually, it sounds really simple, but the first place to start is try and encourage yourself to look a little bit more long term. So start asking, what do I want to achieve now in the short term? It could be saving for a house deposit, or it could be something much, much smaller than that and much more short term than that. Start thinking about what your goals are. It could be getting better control over your budget, for example. That's a great sort of short term, very achievable goal to look at now, and that will start to give you that control when it comes to your financial plan. Then start to look at medium term. Do you want to start a family, or is there sort of a business plan in place, whatever that may be? But then look long term as well. Start to think about, what age would I like to have financial security? And by financial security, what I mean by that is the age that you like to either stop or slow down work, or at least have the option to be able to do so, which a lot of people sort of traditionally call retirement. So when would you like to have the option to start to retire, or at least slow down? And during that time of retirement, what do you want to do? Is it going to be pottering around, gardening, going for the odd lunch, whatever it may be? Or is it going to be a bit more lavish than that? Do you want to travel the world? It's completely different for everyone. And that will really impact then what you need to do now for retirement. So I think by first of all asking yourself these questions, you can then start to map that out and say, well, this is what I'd like to achieve. And then you can start to land at some numbers. You can start to think, well, if I want to be able to travel the world in retirement, what sort of income would I need? How long will I be retired for? What do I need to start saving now to be able to get there? And then once you've got a good idea around that, that's where you can then work with a professional to then say, right, you need to start saving this amount. This is the best way to save it, and that's how we're going to achieve that goal. And the earlier you can start, the better.
Yeah. So for me, I think I shared with you that I have my own dream, my own retirement dream. And I've said to you that I plan to retire in Okinawa, which is in Japan somewhere. But I've never looked at how much it will cost me to, like, when I'm old, to do that. So what you're basically saying is, I start from that point of, how much will it cost me actually live as a senior citizen in Okinawa, and I wouldn't be working, obviously, or So when we're talking about retirement, I have to be thinking about, well, my income. So how
Yeah.
would I be getting income and living there? How does that work?
Yeah, so I know one thing that we spoke about quite a lot, Augusta, was that flexibility and that agility. And I know when we spoke, you said that's one sort of idea that you had, but you said actually it's not set in stone and you might be in a completely different country, you could be in the UK, and actually having those options available to you was really, really important. So again, that's really important to establish is how set in stone is this goal, and is there opportunity for that to maybe flex? And so the best thing you can do is actually create a diversified portfolio, because that's going to put you in the best position possible, because wherever you end up, there's different sort of rules and different limitations and different benefits of different assets that you can build up. So with a pension as an example, amazing benefits in the UK. You can just take an element of that pension tax-free when you retire. But then in certain other jurisdictions, in certain other countries, there may be other tax implications from when you take your pension, and it will vary depending on where you are and what country you're in. And the same goes to things like an ISA or an offshore bond or whatever else you sort of built up in terms of your pots. So the best thing you can do if your plan isn't set in stone is to diversify and just have a couple of different sort of investments and assets that you can rely on when you do retire, and that's how you achieve that income.
Joe, so you're talking about diversifying our assets and investing in, I guess, in pensions as well. So in terms of those people who haven't actually had time to actually contribute to their pensions, how can they catch up? What's the best thing to do to catch up and start making those contributions?
Yeah, so it really does depend on your individual circumstance, because everyone in the UK has a certain amount of pension allowance, and that will vary depending on the amount of salary that you have, on how much allowance you've used already. So all these different things we need to consider. But there's some really clever solutions that we can look at. So for people in the UK, you have the ability to put £40,000 into a pension each year, or 100% of your salary, whichever is lower. So what you can actually do is you can actually look back 3 years prior. So once you've looked at this tax year, you can actually look at the 3 previous years and use any unused allowance. So let's say, for argument's sake, your pension allowance was £40,000 each year. If you didn't use any of that £40,000 3 years prior, then you could have £160,000 in total of pension allowance to use if you take in consideration this year and the last 3 years. So it will really depend on your situation, but actually that really highlights the importance of working with a professional or seeking advice to just understand what your options are, because it will be different for everyone and you don't want to miss out on an opportunity. And don't just assume that you're behind, when actually there are often things that you can do to sort of play catch up there.
Okay, and for those who are actually salaried, so their employers have a pension scheme in place and they're currently contributing to that, is there something else, or should they be looking at other options, or should they be investing in that themselves, or should they just kind of rest and feel like, oh, the employer's taking care of that for them?
Yeah, so a big thing of the employer scheme is when you have an employer scheme set up, you will contribute into that employer scheme, but you'll also get contributions from your company as well. And what's really important there is to make sure you're getting the max match from your company. And what I mean by that is each company will have a certain amount that they'll match when it comes to the contribution. So as an example, your company may say, if you put in 4%, we'll put in 8% of your salary. But they might say, if you put in 5%, we'll actually increase our contribution to 10%. And they might do that all the way up until a certain number. So what you want to make sure you're doing is you're getting that max match from the company. And the reason for that is it's just additional money from your company above and beyond your salary. It's a pay rise, it's a bonus. So really important that you opt into your workplace pension scheme. You get those employer contributions because it's free money, and if you're not doing that, then you're missing out on that opportunity. And anything above and beyond that, it really depends on your workplace pension scheme. It depends on what you're looking to achieve, and it also depends on how the contributions are made into the scheme. Some people get salary sacrifice, and that's one way the contribution is being made. Some people get something called relief at source. And there's different pros and cons to these different versions of contributions within a workplace scheme. So again, really important to discuss your options with somebody so you can see, should I be doing more within the workplace scheme, or could I potentially open up a personal pension? And it's different for everyone.
Sometimes it's just like knowing which questions to ask, because it can feel a little bit daunting again when there's loads and loads of information on the internet, and not really knowing who to trust and who to even speak to even start to think about putting a financial plan together. How do we go about identifying our money team, if you like?
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. And yeah, so in terms of asking the right questions, and identifying the right people to speak to, I would say personally the way I go about it and the way I recommend people going about it is, it sounds really simple, but use the internet first. Start doing your own sort of basic research and just start to see what different options are out there. And you'll probably find that it feels a bit overwhelming. You'll think, well, I could do this and I could do that, and there's this investment vehicle, or I could put this into my workplace pension. I don't really know what makes sense to me. But at least it will get your brain thinking in that way. At least it will show you the opportunities that are out there. And then what I would suggest doing is then looking at different professional services. So would I benefit from talking to a financial advisor, for example? Am I a business owner and actually talking to an accountant will be appropriate? Or am I looking for something more linked to solicitor work, for example? But just don't be scared to sort of talk to your own network, find out if they're working with an advisor or if they're working with a professional in a certain area. And then once you've had those conversations, then get the ball rolling, set up an introductory call and find out if that is the right solution for you. And a good advisor or a good solicitor or a good accountant will encourage you to not encourage you to ask the right questions, but they will help bring those questions out. They'll help bring out the right information that you need to know. And that's when you know you're working with the right individual, when they're sort of having that open two-way discussion with you.
Yeah, and is it good to have a good relationship with your personal advisor or your financial planner? Or is it more about they're knowledgeable and you see them once a year and they're taking care of your investments and your pensions and all that? Is it important to have like a good relationship with them?
So I guess that's quite subjective in terms of, some people might say, I really don't care, as long as they're knowledgeable, I'm happy with that. Personally, being on the financial advisor side of it, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't enjoy the working with clients. I enjoy client servicing. I enjoy getting to know the individuals. It's been a pleasure to get to know you over the last couple of months or so, and that's why I do what I do. And yes, it's important that an advisor or professional that you work with is knowledgeable. Absolutely make sure that you feel comfortable they're giving you the best advice possible. But then above and beyond that, really, this is a partnership for life when you're working with a financial planner. So personally, I think it's really important that you have that trust, because trust is so critical. You've got to be able to have honest and open discussions with each other. You should be challenging each other to make sure that you're building the right strategy. And also, you want to enjoy the time. If you're going to be sat there talking about pensions and investments, then you want to get on the call and feel like, oh, actually, I'm going to look forward to this because I like the individual, rather than thinking, I've got that review session, I don't really want to go to it, I don't really want to talk to this person about it because I don't enjoy it, I just feel like I have to. You don't want it to be a chore. And actually, if you enjoy and you like the person that you work with, then you'll make the whole process more enjoyable, and it will encourage you to continue to do the right things with your finances.
Yeah. So Jo, I used to be one of those people that thought my kids would be my retirement plan.
Yeah.
You know, that they'll grow up, I'll go and live with them, and they'll take care of me. So what do you have to say to mothers like me who kind of feel like I don't have to take care of my retirement planning right now because my kids are going to take care of me when I'm older?
Yeah, you're definitely not alone in thinking that, Augusta. And there's nothing to say that won't happen for an individual. But again, the really important thing when you're planning for anything is to mitigate risk. And the way you mitigate risk without sounding like a broken record is to diversify. So yeah, absolutely, that could be your retirement plan, and your kids might be the best kids in the world, and they'll completely look after you. You can go and live with them. But what about if that wasn't to happen? And you just don't know what happens in life. You don't know what's going to happen to your kids. Unfortunately, life can be difficult and can be very hard sometimes, and things are out of our control. They might not be in a position financially by the time that they grow up they can support you. Again, you don't know what challenges they're going to have, or what might happen in the environment. Maybe there's not many jobs out there. You just really don't know. So the best thing you can do is just have a couple of safety nets. So yes, you can plan to then go and live with your kids and be with them during retirement, but why not put yourself in the best position and have a pension pot built up, an ISA built up, whatever it may be, whatever you're able to do, so that no matter what life throws at you, you're going to be financially secure, and you're going to have that financial well-being, and you're going to enjoy retirement, and really value that time and not have unnecessary stress or anxiety around money.
Thank you for that, Joe. Also, I was just thinking about how flexible can your financial plan be? I know that when we had our discussion, I said to you, I'm going to start with a certain amount and pay this on a monthly basis, and later on I'll top it up. So what's the, like, is there a minimum amount that you can start with and then, change later on?
Yeah, definitely. And it's actually really key, Augusta, because often people, I think, they put these things off. They say, well, I've got this project that I'm doing, or house renovations, or I've got to save for this holiday, so it's not the right time, it's not the right time, or about to have a new child, wherever it may be. And I hear this all the time, and I completely get it. My job isn't to stretch you or make you feel like you're under stress on a monthly basis because you're saving too much and there's not enough for you to live or do the things that you want to do. That's not the sort of goal here. But if you keep making excuses, it will never happen. So what's really, really important is to just start with whatever feels comfortable now, and no matter how small it is, because it's not about how much you're doing or what you're doing. It's more about the time that you're investing, because the longer you invest, you'll just benefit more and more from compound interest. And all compound interest is, it's just interest on the interest that you've already gained. So if you had £100 and you got 1% interest, by the end of the year you'd have £101. The next year you'll get 1% on the 101, and the next year 1% on that. So you can see how that compound impact will make a huge difference. So starting earlier with small amounts is much more beneficial than leaving it and delaying it and delaying it. So never be put off by the amount, and absolutely you can be agile. You can freeze, stop, increase, decrease. It's completely up to you to control it in that way as and when you need to.
Yeah, and what I loved about working with you, Joe, is that there was just no judgment.
Yeah,
I felt really, really comfortable. Like, okay, this is the amount, and you were like, okay, this is what we can do, and these are your options. So I like the way that you work, and which is the reason why I guess it's quite important for us to actually have a good relationship. So just to round us up, because I know that you have to go, can you give us like a summary or some key points that we should take away with us as we end our talk tonight?
Yeah. So I would say the big thing that I always encourage people to do is, and it's easier said than done, but just don't be daunted by your finances. Don't be daunted by the word or the phrase financial planning. Everyone has the right and deserves to gain control of their finances, because it impacts our overall well-being. And there's nothing wrong with asking questions and doing your research and talking to people. And by doing that, you will just start to gain control over your finances. And that's going to put you in a much better position, not just now, but for the future as well. So my big thing to anyone out there is don't delay. Don't be scared as well. I'm prone to this. Sometimes I almost don't ask the questions because I'm a bit scared of the answer, and we all do that. But there's no judgment, and there shouldn't be any judgment. So I encourage anyone and admire anyone that goes out there and starts trying to gain control of their financial position.
Awesome. And for those of you who are actually online tonight, do you have any questions? If you have any questions, you can, or any comments, please drop it below. So before Joe goes, you have the opportunity for Joe to actually answer that for you. Yeah, I've learned so much tonight. So thank you so much, Joe. I know my takeaways would be to put the numbers together with regards to like Okinawa. I need to actually go and find out what the cost will be to do that. So if anybody else has any questions, comments that you want to ask with regards to your pension planning, I know that there are a few business owners here tonight. So I think you've mentioned what business owners should be doing with regards to like identifying.
So business owners actually have, they're in a very privileged position whereby there's some great tax efficient solutions that you can look at. So for example, your pension, you can actually contribute directly from a business into a pension. So the sort of benefits of doing that is you avoid income tax, corporation tax, and national insurance as well. So it's a very effective way of taking equity from the business, but also saving for retirement. So it's an absolute win-win. And there's lots of other things you can look at as a business owner, and you should definitely be making the most of those sort of opportunities that you have.
Awesome. Okay, so thank you so much. And I'll let you go. So thank you for joining us tonight. And I hope everybody else who joined got something and took something away. Any advice on the type of companies to invest in? Oh, could you answer that, Jo?
Yeah, so it's a really interesting question, and it really does vary on you as an individual, because everyone will have a different attitude to risk. So when we investing is inherently risky. And there's different risks associated with different assets, different sectors, different regions, and different styles of investing as well. So really, I know it's a bit of a cop-out answer, but I wouldn't be able to say to you, invest in this type of company, because it really is much more complicated than that. And again, really sort of highlights where the value of working with a professional really comes in, because if there was one answer, then we'll all be doing it and we'll all be making sort of millions. And it really isn't as simple as that.
Oh, but there's something else that you did mention, because at the moment we do research on companies, but we're looking at historical information. Where I remember you said to me that what's quite unique about what you guys do is like you look at the future and you're able to like help us understand the trends and what might be happening in the future, and looking to invest in those kind of companies.
Yeah. So the way that we work is we actually work with specialist investment consultancy firms, source the global markets, and find the best fund managers from around the world, and then we contract them out. And these fund managers, they're the ones that actually invest the money. So you've got that peace of mind. You know that these individuals are taking all the micro, macro, economic trends that are happening, and they're making the best calculated decisions to give you the best opportunity for sustainable growth. So really, they're the experts. They're the ones that are going to make these calculated decisions. I'm a wealth planner, so I'm a financial advisor. I don't actually manage the funds specifically.
Thank you so much, Jo, and we'll end our chat tonight. Hopefully we'll have you back again, and we can look at maybe even talking about investments maybe later on. Well, thank you so much, and thank you to everybody who's joined tonight. So, see ya. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Augusta. Take care. Have a lovely evening. Thanks, everyone.